So the name is Rob Brady. The name of the company is ROBRADY Design, and we're located in Sarasota, Florida.
Rob, thanks so much for making time joining us on the Ivy podcast this afternoon. Before we dive in and spend a great deal of time talking about what you're currently building and innovating with Rob Brady Designs, give us a thumbnail version of your career prior to that.
Yeah, so I was born an industrial designer. I didn't realize it till a little bit later on, and out of high school, I just happened to go to Auburn University. It's one of the places that taught industrial design. I didn't go there for industrial design, but that's where I first learned about it. And I think it was theater major or something like that. And I switched over to industrial design, and I've never looked back ever since. And interestingly, it didn't click. If you want to know, with industrial design, I almost got kicked out of the school. They said, this guy just doesn't have what it takes. And at the 11th hour, night before, well, maybe a night or two before this big major presentation, I thought to myself, well, if I'm going to get kicked out, I'm going to quit doing what I think they want me to do, and I'm going to do what I think it should be. And that was the epiphany. That was the click. And from that moment on, I went from one moment almost getting kicked out of Auburn University to the end of that year where the instructors said, you know, maybe you should look at the Art Center, which was arguably the premier design school in the country. And it all became because I finally, instead of trying to figure out what the other professors or whatever wanted, I went my own way. And I think it's, as an entrepreneur, that's just been the path ever since. So 3 years at Auburn, 4 more years at Art Center, studying both product design and transportation design, which led me to my first job, which was a cigarette racing team in Miami Beach, Florida. This is the days of Miami Vice and stuff like that. So the very first product, after all this energy and effort, the very first product I designed was 8 feet wide and 42 feet long, twin 1,000 horsepower manned engines, absolutely no socially redeeming factors whatsoever. I mean, it was just an exotic, an absolute off the charts exotic coming out of Miami, and I had a good time doing that. I went and worked with another powerboat company where the biggest thing I did at that point was a 72-foot boat, and was getting to travel around the world. And then the recession hit back in the mid '80s, and so with that, I had to clamp down, had to reimagine what I was going to do. Well, the boats were fun, and certainly was a ticket to go play all over the place. What really struck me was my passion for design and building and inventing things. So I went back to my roots of Art Center in Auburn and designing and developing products that started ROBRADY Design. I think we're talking 1990. So there's a little bit of an overlap when I was at one of those companies, but it was just me, myself, and I. And at the time, man, you know, it was the stress of not being part of a bigger organization was really something I was feeling, and I needed to figure out how to deal with that. So I was living in Orlando, Florida at the time, and working for a company called Arano Powerboats that had since closed. And I would make up projects. I had no projects, but I'd make them up, and I'd make up deadlines, and I'd have to make those deadlines. So I would literally pull an all-nighter to hit a deadline for a client that didn't exist, because it made me feel alive. And I don't know what it would take to get me to an all-nighter these days. It'd probably take about a month of recovery. But back then, it really went to the passion I had for design and the business of design and getting those things working together. So fast forward to where we are today. We've got 25 plus, probably 26, 27 years of developing products. So when people are experts in different disciplines, I think our expertise here is developing products. And if you see from our website, it's incredibly diverse. And what we try to pride ourselves in is seeing things differently and having a methodology, a method to the madness that allows us to make that thing that we see real and in the marketplace at the right price point. And I think as you go through, you get better at your business model, you get better at your tools, you get better at how you develop products. And one that we've got right now to kind of crystallize that idea is our favorite our favorite friends from Branson, Missouri, which is Safer Medical Products. And I bring them out here initially because they represent kind of the pinnacle of where ROBRADY is. We do a lot of different things for different clients. And sometimes it's this group or that group or, certain towns, but with Safer, and they're doing what are they? So they have developed their ER docs who have been the heart of this pandemic, and they've come up with a series of products that all go around what we call a portable negative pressure system. And it's for capturing the exhalation of patients, which really goes to the benefit of the healthcare workers. So they came to us with this need, and we have thrown in everything that ROBRADY has ever done and known from a servicing and get to market standpoint, especially on medical where it's so complicated. And what I mean by that, we call it four channels that we're supporting them with. One is design and engineering, and that would be obvious, but then production and fulfillment, and then sales and distribution, and then lastly, marketing and communication. So by being able to bring all of those various disciplines, talents that we've done previously to this venture, we've been able to skyrocket the time to market for this product. It's never fast enough when you're talking healthcare, but nonetheless, in just over a year, we have gone from a conversation to actual product in a warehouse and all the regulatory stuff that goes along with that. So, that's where ROBRADY is. And I think it's one of the things that really defines us and differentiates us from groups that will be focused in one channel or another. We really enjoy the creativity and the passion of not only the design, but the business of design.
Oh, that's super exciting, and definitely very, very interesting journey going into where you at right now. So thank you for sharing that. From an innovation perspective and just going through that creative process, building and fostering that culture of innovation, I would imagine that's at the forefront as one of the key strategies for the organization that you're running. Tell us a little bit more about maybe some practical recommendations that really help you succeed in that space to continuously innovate, to really build that environment that really fosters that creative thinking, that innovation process.
Well, you're right. It doesn't happen by accident. And it really is something that you've got to foster. I think the organization of ROBRADY is very flat.
Mm-hmm.
We have myself, we have program managers, and we have designers, engineers, fabricators. And those program managers are really there to allow the designers to design, engineers to engineer. So that's a big piece of how we keep fast decisions and high energy and really can really multiply the passion we have for these solutions. But when it comes to innovation, nothing works all the time. Matter of fact, I'm surprised when it works at all. And so we have what we call, from a tool standpoint, our toolbox is a CDR. So when we're developing a product and it's just not firing, whether that's an aesthetic issue, a physical issue, technology issue, it's called CDR. And so this is a critical design review. And at ROBRADY, because we have designers, engineers, fabricators, tons of subject matter experts that are about 1 degree away from us, when we have a crisis, someone will raise their hand and say, let's call a CDR. And sometimes it's right then. We'll grab different folks and we'll hit it right there. And by taking the problem and looking at it differently, people that are in the project who have all the history, people who have never been in the project, so they're seeing with fresh eyes, asking great questions, stupid questions, all different stuff, kind of pushing us to think about things differently. More often than not, we really make tremendous progress with something like that. We offer that to our clients as well when they're figuring out their business model. We believe to pivot on the design solutions, and we also promote and kind of coach our customers to pivot on their business model, because where they start, where they think the goal is, might actually be over here. And if you start to see that it's somewhere else, by all means, start to pivot, start to turn, and our design work, we try to anticipate that. But the other tool that I think every design house has to have right now is 3D printing. We have invested heavily. We've got about $500,000 in 3D printing equipment right now. So we have several machines, do different types of work, and prototype early and often is huge. Get it in the hands. So many times we're looking at amazing imagery. That's the other tool that I really would recommend to folks is in the business of design, sketching, computer models, those types of things, real world environments, white environments, those types of things help to communicate an idea. So, and the better you are at that in the very early, like some of our motorcycles or scooters or consumer products, the better we can illustrate the end game, the better we are at imagining how to get there. And that's all done at the very beginning by taking that imagery, and we can win hearts early with that imagery, and then we'll have folks that will go, well, it must be done. I can see it. It looks like it's real. It's believable. So we should be done. And that's kind of one of those things where we kind of test the waters and communicate to our clients and our partners that there's a lot of work ahead, but this image kind of tells us where we're going to go. So all the ships sail in the same direction. And then that's another reason why some of our prototypes are purely functional prototypes to see if let's test this idea, see if it really is going to work. Many of our prototypes are saying, let's just print this thing. We have beautiful high-res printers that do colors and graphics and text and all kinds of things. And we'll print it, and then we'll send it to our customers. So now we're, especially under the way we're doing now, everything through Zoom, we'll send them that right away. And we could, because we have that capability in-house, we can, in a very short order of time, put what seems to be finished products visually in people's hands. And so often it's the wrong size. Right. It's like, it's a medical device, right? And they're looking at it and they're going, wow, that's bigger than I thought. Or it's a consumer electronics and says, this is supposed to fit on my wrist. And I said, right, you've got to start prioritizing the things you want in there because it's the size of a house and we need to get it down. So those types of tools early on in the process really help to challenge the solutions. And if you were to put an umbrella statement over what is it you're really doing, it's called de-risking. Mm-hmm. And by understanding the process and going through things methodically, you are beginning to de-risk the solution that you're going to take to market. And if you can de-risk, then you can challenge assumptions. And if you can challenge those assumptions, you can fail, you can pivot, you can get back onto the key path, but allows you to really be creative. I mean, truly be creative. If you cannot fail, if you cannot miss, then I don't know how to be creative because your solutions are going to be so conservative. However, I'm talking about early on in the process. You don't want to be gambling with 1,000 units or a product in a warehouse somewhere. I'll do that with customers that will come in and sit down, and I'll say, okay, I understand what you're after. Understand how to build it and design and develop it. Right now, today, if down the street I had your product, I had 1,000 of them in a warehouse, what would you do? More often than not, they don't know. They don't know what the answer is.
Wow.
And I go, well, if you don't know the answer to that, I'm not the problem. You need to think about what you would do with that product because your business model hasn't evolved to that point. And if you do, then it helps us to design the right product because you know what the product is that you want to sell.
Yeah, absolutely. No, that's definitely interesting perspectives. And I love that you started talking about improving the internal process on the topic of innovation, because a lot of times innovation is almost misconceived with something grandiose, something out of this world, digital transformation, things like that. But a lot of times innovation is in the form of just very small incremental improvements.
Sure.
Exactly what you've talked about. One of my favorite books of all time, and I gotta send you a copy of that, is by my Harvard professor, Stephen Tomke, Experimentation Matters and Experimentation Works. And he covers a lot of ground from a perspective exactly what you've talked about. Fail often, fail fast, fail early, and do as much as possible experimentation so that you can get to that perfection. So I think those are very interesting concepts.
Well, John, you're bringing up user experience, and if you would talk about some of the evolution of design, although we've been doing it for a long time, we've gotten better at it. And as we work with collaborate with other design groups, marketing groups, technology groups, user experience and customer insights are the most amazing insights into where to go with your product. It's often personalities that feel this way or feel that way. And so when you talk about experimenting, we love working with groups where we go off and we do consumer insights. We do user experiences. We do immersion. Mm-hmm. And then early on, we're sketching. and we're creating imagery, sharing that. We're creating 3D models that can be very basic, but we're putting those into the conversations. And because of the tools that we have, the earlier you do that, to your point about experimentation, it just illuminates where the world is on things they like, things they don't like, and it just makes your final solution so much more targeted and rich, and something that you can kind of gauge against as you develop the product.
Yeah, absolutely. You spot on with that. And I come from a deeply technical and project management background myself, and I can't help but ask, the process that you go through, that creative process, that requirement intake, experimentation, prototyping, then go into mass production. A lot of that, I see similarities in project management, managing some type of a technical software implementation.
Sure.
Tell me a little bit more about the process. What is the role of project management, effective communication, making sure that you have that, process in place with your clients? What are some of the things that really help you succeed in that space, especially when you deal with maybe so much ambiguity at the beginning, where a client comes in and says, I just want, a motorcycle. And then you guys uncover that through the series of interviews, requirements gathering. Maybe shine a little bit more light into that internal process.
Well, there was a time when we didn't have program managers. They usually ended up being the engineer on a project. I don't know, maybe they're more mature than the designers. I'm an industrial designer, so full disclosure. So truly a design-led company. But what would happen was we would go through quite an exhaustive product launch and start of a project, and then that engineer, whoever, had to own the program management standpoint. It was almost like I got to stop being an engineer and go be a program manager. And right about that time, I was becoming more aware of true program managers, people like yourself that really understand that as a discipline. And we have never looked back. I mean, that is so important in our program. We've got 3 program managers today. We're looking for a one more with current workload. But the program managers own budget, schedule, top level communications. Some of our bigger programs, and they're more and more are quite robust. There's a tremendous amount of activity that's going on the program manager in the beginning of a program, getting it set up, getting the customer, getting all those critical deadlines, getting the technology. Tremendous quantity of what ROBRADY does today involves, what can I say here? Physical and digital interplay of a solution. So we bring in different partners, and we call it a group, ROBRADY group, and we pull people in underneath that umbrella. So our customer sees the ROBRADY team, but the group is made up of different disciplines based on the assignment, and it really all falls onto that program manager. You're probably watching this at some point cringing that I say it's all on them, but honestly, people will come to me and say, hey, I need this thing to happen on this day, and I go, man, you're talking about my pay grade. I'm not allowed to do it. But if you talk to Adrian or Jeff or Ryan, the PM, they will schedule it. They will define it. They will make sure it happens, because I go where they tell me, but I don't set the schedules. And there's so many different pieces and parts. And John, what's great about this is with a number of our programs, our customers, big customers and startups for sure, but even some of our bigger customers, they go, we want to work with ROBRADY again, and we want that one particular program manager, because they didn't manage ROBRADY alone, they managed us.
Right.
And so they were able to hit deadlines that our customers are traditionally were missing, because internally they were getting torn. I mean, they're all smart folks, but they were getting torn with production issues and that issue. But a ROBRADY program manager will manage us. It'll manage you. It'll manage events and all kinds of stuff. And by doing that, as I said before, the designers get to design, engineers get to engineer, prototypers get to fabricate, and we just go back to that qualified, super talented program manager to say, please organize this, set up the boundaries, and within that, we are going to just be immersive and creative and come up with wonderful solutions as quickly as possible.
Oh, that's pretty cool. Definitely music to my ears, especially the value of program management, project management.
Huge. We have program managers that are listed on patents.
Wow.
Because they were so immersive in the design, they helped us break through and realize the ultimate solution. Yeah, I
That's
can't say enough good stuff about program managers.
Well, we could probably speak the rest of the episode about this particular topic, but just moving on, you've mentioned the team. So as an executive, as running the organization, I would imagine surrounding yourself with top performers is at the top of your mind 24/7, whether you actively recruiting or not. So tell us a little bit more about your talent acquisition strategy. It's such a highly competitive market these days, especially, something on the technical side is technical skills. And
Yeah.
just overall, war for talent is real out there. More importantly, war for retention is another layer. Share some perspectives from that standpoint. How do you succeed in the space of really being able to attract the top talent to your team?
Well, we've been fortunate to not only attract it, but to hold on to. We have people that have been here almost 20 years. And I think, where do good people go? They go to great projects. They go to great clients. They go to great programs, great opportunities. And so we're incredibly unique in Florida, let alone the South. Great place to live and work, and the weather and all that type of stuff. But the projects that we do develop, watercraft, exoskeleton robotics, scooters, motorcycles, boats, all kinds of amazing fun things that we do, is what attracts, well, actually, is what does a big part of retaining the talent that we have. We also pay on a national level, not a local level, so that certainly helps. But I think what attracts people is there's no one that we talk to that hasn't just completely digested our website. And Jennifer Jensen, who heads up the ROBRADY marketing element, does a phenomenal job with her team in promoting not just design awards and stuff like that, which are always great, and the accolades and stuff like that and the recognition, but through Facebook, our website, press releases and things like that, our name gets out there a lot. So people get to realize there's something going on here. And then when you see, we have a press release, it might be about a medical device that we're doing. Next press release might be some program we're doing with Yamaha, or an electric vehicle that we're doing somewhere. I think that you've got to have amazing projects to attract amazing people. Now, when those people get in, it's kind of like the A players like to play with A players, the Steve Jobs quote. When you come to interview to me, if you get to the point where you're interviewing with me, you've got the job. Mm-hmm. Don't blow it. I'm looking for passion. I'm looking for your insights. But the reason you came to me was because I looked at talking about industrial designers. If I can see your portfolio, and that's the first thing I'll ask. If you didn't send me your portfolio, that's a red flag, a link, that is. And then when I get to see it, I can see through the way you think, with the way you communicate and your sketches and the things like that. So sometimes I'm just out there looking and trying to find interesting people, and then I'll Core 77, Core Flat, great sites for designers. I can see people with amazing talent and reach out to them and pull them in and try them out on different programs. We do the normal searches, but I think at the end of the day, it's really, if I can see your portfolio, I can see into your mind, and then I'm going to pull you into my office and say, let's have a conversation, or a Zoom. Let's have a conversation and see if the rest of it's there. Is that passion really there? The ability to communicate, and then working with the team that we have and the A players. If you're not on top of your game, it's just so hard to compete with the various designers and engineers and fabricators, because they want to only work with the best that they can, and they're very personal and passionate about their work. And like I said, we've got about, at ROBRADY, 25 to 35 people here. We have a sister company called Armor-It, which is another 20 plus folks, and that's military and government programs. ROBRADY is consumer and commercial programs. Best to keep those two houses separated with the way contracts work. But that's really what it comes down to is great projects attract great people, and then those great people help to retain other great people.
Right. No, I love that. Definitely resonates on so many levels. And you couldn't have set me up any better for the next question I have for you is around interviewing, because it's such a difficult space, and because of from personal observation, I've been on both sides of the equation where I led the technology teams at corporate sector. So I got my share of interviews done. And I've also been, the candidate as well, where I've interviewed
Sure.
other companies. And just overall, a lot of interviews are based on that past personal experience. And instead of focusing on what is the strength that's missing on my team, rather than looking at what is the weakness that I can tolerate in that particular candidate. So tell us a little bit more about how you structure your interviews. You've mentioned, of course, candidate goes through many rounds of interviews within your organization, and they get to you. You mentioned just don't blow it. How do you structure that conversation? What are some of the questions that really help you uncover the personality of that person? Because you've already seen the portfolio, you've got the feedback from your entire team. What are some of the questions that really help you get into kind of the mind of that particular individual? And what do you look for in their responses?
One of my favorite questions that I ask, to your point, we've done a lot to get to this point. Technically, we've seen your work technically, we've seen your experience technically, and all that kind of stuff. You arrive, and one of the first questions I want to know about is your passion for design. And the best designers I know have an incredible passion for design, and they can articulate it, and they just pull you along, and they really do a wonderful and amazing job of that, and they sow their experiences into the passion question. And if you don't have that, then there was a miss on the portfolio, or the portfolio is actually not as deep as we thought it was. And we're looking for folks that are truly passionate. And I'll say that, I'll ask that to engineers, and they'll talk about projects that went really well. And hey, I saved this many dollars and that many dollars. And I said, well, that's great, but how did it affect you? How much ownership did you have? When it's the 11th hour and the stress is just crushing you, man, if you don't have passion for getting it right, you'll go, that's good enough. I want to get away from this thing. I gotta get somewhere else. But I got folks here who will stay the weekends, come in early, stay late, do all kinds of stuff to hit the right answer because they're passionate about their work, about themselves, and getting to play in this bigger team. They want to impress their teammates with their passion in the program. So I really want to drill in a lot about the passion aspect with them and ask the same question from a couple different directions, so that I can get a feel for this person has it in their soul. It's part of their DNA. My wife and I would joke about design, that design chooses you. You don't choose design. And so by design choosing you, that's your soul. That's your DNA. You just everything you do has got to be about design. And if I hear that and feel that from the candidates, and they've got the good technical stuff ahead of that, it's a real shot at being successful here at the studio. And you think about the person working here. So the morning, nobody has one project and says, hey, you're going to work on this one project for the next 3 months. It just doesn't work that way. We've got 30 plus projects that will be going on at any one time. Mm-hmm. And then a whole group that are queuing in, and a group that we're trying to complete. But you've got to figure out how to manage that. And in the morning, you're working on you're working on some kind of medical device, and then the afternoon, you're talking to an Olympic swimmer on a piece of technical exercise, aquatic resistance device. One of the things that we did that got a lot of publicity recently with the Olympics and the people that are using this particular product. And then you're finishing off the evening driving around in an electric vehicle, doing deliveries as part of your immersion into designing and developing new products in that space. So the designers and people that get to work here, there's no getting tired of a particular project, because they swap out so fast, and throughout the day you're working on different things. And I think that thinking that way also has as what I might call a cross-pollination effect, where you're taking ideas that might have been obvious and saturated in a consumer product, and then you're working on a medical device later on that might not have ever seen that before. So you're bringing those things over. We're working on jet boats and wave runners and stuff like that. And then the next afternoon or the next day, we're working on RVs, and we're bringing ideas back and forth where they didn't exist before. And when you can do that, and we did that with a major recreational vehicle manufacturer, where we did their whole console as one piece of fiberglass. And there was all these kinds of benefits. It looked like a piece of jewelry. They were wildly concerned that they'd never done it that way, and it's going to be too high of a risk. And we said, well, we're going to show you what we're doing in the marine market, where you consider this a big risk. They call that a small part. And here's how they do it. And then we put people together to supply that part. And you, next thing you know, we're bringing ideas that have a lot of time in the market, really well-tried ideas into new markets. So it's a new application. So anyways, we love the ability to jump between so many things. And I think that has a lot to do with, on one hand, retention, the other hand, just making people crazy with the pace.
So I love that approach, and it's definitely unique in the sense that it really provides you with an opportunity to also let them get to know you as a leader of the company and understand what is the type of culture that they're getting into. And is this the environment that I can actually succeed in, given, my passion, given my objectives, given my personality? I think that's a very unique and powerful approach, which is very inspiring. In terms of just zeroing in a little bit more on you as a person, what is maybe a piece of advice or series of advice that you had received early on in your career that you continue to carry on with yourself, that you pass on to others?
Well, John, I've had, through my career, I've had amazing mentors, and I think they saw the passion that I had for success and what it took to get across the line. What did I think that one of the things that has been instilled in me, I think I might have had it from my parents. I'll give them full credit, but I think a lot of the folks that I've dealt with from a mentoring standpoint are really about ownership. And you've got to own it. If it's wrong, own that. If it's right, share the credit. But ownership is huge. I bring the word passion out into it. Maybe that's ownership going to the extreme, but the ownership is probably one of the lessons that I've learned from billion-dollar executives and people like that. There's no it's black and white. There's no excuse. Far too often at times we'll see, well, here's what I asked you to do, and if someone feels that either I delivered that to you or I delivered an excuse, and they don't see a difference between an excuse and what you actually asked for, that's a real problem. And I've been taught that's been beaten into me by a lot of these guys that I have tremendous, and gals that I have tremendous amount of respect for. And that's what I try to coach into the folks that we work with here. Ownership, ownership, ownership. The passion will come out there, the technical capabilities. And we got amazingly talented individuals. And so what I try to do is help to coach and steer and offer alternatives, but I really want their passion to come out. And sometimes it's designers, sometimes it's just people that are working on business strategy. Mm-hmm. Creativity is not in any one particular channel. It's amazingly pervasive, and the more you can get creative, I think our business deals, I think they're just as creative as our products, and by doing that, we make better fits, we win more programs, and when it all goes well, we're compensated at a level that wouldn't have otherwise happened.
Yeah, that's absolutely powerful. Thank you for sharing that. Who inspires you these days? You've been in the industry for quite some time. You've always kind of pioneered your own ways of doing things. You've mentioned that working at a larger corporation was not kind of something that you would excel at. So obviously you look for your own way, your own inspirations out there. Who has been a mentor? Who has been an inspiration to you throughout all these years? Maybe series of people. Yeah.
Well, any good product guy has to start with Steve Jobs. The value of the experience, the packaging, the product, the interplay between products, the whole platform solutions. That means a lot to me. I don't really read books as much as I used to, because I can stream books, which means I can now, when I'm driving or I'm doing stuff, I can be streaming. So I'm always streaming a book. Examples: Steve Jobs, Ed Catmull, who headed up Pixar. Those Creativity Inc. and Walter Isaacson's story of Steve Jobs are two great books. And more than once, I'll listen to them at the same time. When I'm taking my son to school, we're listening to Steve Jobs. And as I'm leaving from his school back to work, I'm listening to Ed Catmull and Creativity Inc., the story of Pixar, because it's a story that happens at the same time, basically the same time. So I'm getting Steve Jobs insights, but from completely different perspectives. So it's really kind of cool there. Shoe Dog, Phil Knight's story. Oh, man.
I love it.
You know, those types of books give you a foray into the front seat of what's going on. And that guy putting up his house, putting up, never having enough cash to buy the product, get it in, sell it, get it back and pay for it. He's always on the verge of bankruptcy. He's always on the verge of ruin. And I'm going, I must be in good company, because I feel the same way far too often with our ventures and stuff like that. So that kind of insight's amazing. And there's a great book. Let me see if I can remember what it is. It's Bad Blood, John Carreyrou. Have you read that book?
I have not, but definitely on my list. I've heard many great things.
Well, that's Elizabeth Holmes. That's what not to do.
Yeah.
But it's amazing. The king's not wearing any clothes. Yes, he is. Yes, he is. And the smartest folks were sent in, reported in, and said, this is not real, but everyone needed it to be real for their various selfish reasons. And so John does an amazing capture of that story. So I think there's, books on success, and you get to relate to that as far as it really takes these kind of things to be successful, but also books on failures. And I find all of those things, just absolutely amazing. And then from a history standpoint, Einstein, Franklin, Leonardo da Vinci. Again, I stream these things all the time. So if I would sit down and read, I couldn't get other stuff done. But if you're streaming, you can do this thing all the time. And the neat thing is the personality traits of Einstein and Franklin and da Vinci as just three guys are so similar. And they existed in history. They never got to meet each other, but the personality traits are so very similar. So as you're reading those things and you think about how they think differently, they just think differently. They don't follow, well, what's everybody else thinking? Let me go that way. They were very, very comfortable to think differently. And if you can kind of pull out of that some stuff for yourself, they become my mentor. They become the person I want to be like. And, those are the types of, things that mean a lot to me, as not only as a designer, but also a guy who's running and making payroll for 40 something people every single week. It's different types of stresses. They don't teach that at Art Center. But you got to figure it out. If you're gonna play another day, you got to pay everybody, and taxes included. And so by reading about people who took on amazing pressure and amazing stress and had amazing successes, it's motivational. And that's my juice that I like to drink and savor and find a little bit of solace in when things are really tough.
No, that's amazing. And you actually did cover another question that I had for you, was around books. What are some of the books that you really enjoy? What do you recommend? So definitely powerful recommendations, and we'll mention some of these in the show notes. Rob, last but not least, what's next for you? What's next for ROBRADY Designs? Where are you taking the company? Where do you see yourself?
Well, company-wise, we just want to get better.
Mm-hmm.
We want to get more efficient. We get more focused, more targeted, get better tools in, get better people in. We have never been more busy than we are right now in the history of the company. And we're heading into even more stuff because we did our best to stay busy during the pandemic, but then those that might have stalled or slowed down are now coming back. And we're seeing a tremendous wave of opportunity. And it's in the marine markets. We're doing a lot with electric vehicles, 2 wheels, 3 wheels, 4 wheels, delivery, personal. It's just going like crazy. And so we are known as people who develop, much like the marine products, we're people who develop the interiors, the exteriors. It's got to look sexy. I got to be able to fit in it. I got all these different types of use cases, but we're also the same guys that are working with battery companies and motor companies. So we're designing the pieces that are inside and bringing in new technologies to the equation of what we would traditionally be doing would be just the exterior. So we are able to offer an incredibly immersive experience with the people that we pull in, and we're free with our customers. We're very open with making introductions. And so these are some great motor guys. These are some great battery guys. And over here are some battery technology. It's not even on the market right now. But if we triangulate and have the right trajectory, we're going to have an amazing product that's far better than anything we saw before. So it's not just about looking good, working good, functions well, all those kinds of things, that end-to-end, platform type solution that allows an amazing product to go out the door, which might fit on your kitchen counter. You might drive it. You might, boat in it, but we can begin to continue to send you new updates and new, that would heighten your experience with the product. People are really, really expecting that today. And so that makes an amazing challenge. Siri had to jump in. That makes for an amazing challenge in the total view of a product, that there's a physical element, there's a digital element, and getting those two to work seamlessly. So as you move in and out of one to the other, it's seamless. When you can do that, the experience is magical, and the technology from artificial intelligence, character recognition. We're doing some stuff in augmented reality that helps to communicate to users, whether they be children, people like you and I, or someone who's really elderly, having the right character show up and communicate to them something that might be difficult, or how to take their medicine appropriately or properly, and to gamify it a little bit. I don't want to say that we're playing down to it, but in any of these things, if you can get someone more adhering to the regimen, everybody gets healthier. So we are taking design into the business models, leveraging the technology to have brand new ways to communicate things, and then also, of course, the physicality of the product. We want these things to look good. We want them to work well. So we do that, but I can't imagine a better time to be an industrial designer, where you get to touch so many of those amazing elements of the digital and physical experience.
Wow, that's super cool. Definitely very exciting times for you right now and ahead. Appreciate you sharing that, Rob. As with every guest on the podcast, what I love doing is a follow-up recording in about a year, where we actually revisit the conversation from a year ago, listen to it, see if everything that we've discussed still makes sense, still applies.
Hold me honest.
So I'm definitely looking forward to doing that with you as well. And Rob, I can't thank you for your time today. It was very short and insightful conversation. I personally learned quite a bit. You were very generous with your information that you had shared. So definitely thank you for that.
John, it's my pleasure anytime, my friend. You're not that far away. So you have an open invitation to come to Sarasota and visit us at your next opportunity.
Much appreciated.
Okay, buddy.